I request all the delegates to please be seated. Madam is starting a lecture.
Should I start?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Cherian sir and the organizing team for giving me this opportunity to present some of the cases which I have reported. Let me start with case 1. A 65-year-old woman presented with convulsions and hemiplegia. MRI revealed a well-defined heterogeneous, predominantly extraaxial right parietal mass measuring 3.9 into 5.1 into 3.5 centimeters, abutting the underlying cortices. It appeared hypointense on T1 and hyperintense with multiple intralesional cystic foci within on T2. Patchy areas of intralesional blooming noted in gradient images. The post-contrast study revealed marked heterogeneous lesional enhancement with non-enhancing cystic component and enhancing dural-based solid component within. The radiologist suggested possibility of cystic meningioma. Let us have a look at the anatomical distribution of the major brain tumors. So in this case, what we thought was it could be meningioma, solitary fibrous tumor oblique hemangiopericytoma, and remotely a metastatic tumor. So we received this specimen in our lab, Shanti Pathology lab. It was a single oval, well-circumscribed gray-white to gray-brown soft tissue tumor along with a dural flap. The tumor measured 4.8 into 4 into 3 centimeters, and cut section of the tumor revealed gray-white to yellowish areas. Now we did frozen and squash in this case, and taking into consideration the extraaxial location, we suggested this to be a high-grade spindle cell tumor with increased vascularity, and we gave differential diagnosis of solitary fibrous tumor, HPC high grade, and anaplastic meningioma. Again, we couldn't come to a very great diagnosis on histology. I again could see a high-grade spindle cell tumor, but favoring the diagnosis of SFT, that is solitary fibrous tumor oblique HPC. On microscopy, brisk mitotic activity, microvascular proliferation, and necrosis was also noted. Immunohistochemistry was an eye-opener in this case. So what we found was these tumor cells expressed GFAP and S100 strong positivity, indicating it a glial tumor. It was IDH negative, that is, we call it IDH wild type. CD99 and FLI1 were focally expressed, suggesting mesenchymal component. EMA was negative, so the possibility of meningioma was ruled out. CD34 and STAT6 were negative. Solitary fibrous tumor oblique HPC was ruled out, and the MIP1 was high. It was 18 to 20%. So the diagnosis is very clear now. It is glioblastoma with mesenchymal differentiation, IDH wild type, WHO grade 4. So the extraaxial location and the spindle cells made us think about all the other differential diagnoses, but with IHC, we could conclude the case. So let us have a look at glioblastomas. So based on the IDH status, glioblastomas are IDH wild type, which account for 90% of tumors, glioblastoma IDH mutant, which account for 10%, and glioblastoma NOS, that is not otherwise specified. Now, glioblastoma IDH wild type will show all the features of glioblastoma, but it lacks mutation in the IDH gene. It has 3 variants: giant cell glioblastoma, gliosarcoma, and epithelioid glioblastoma. Now, the giant cell glioblastoma and epithelioid glioblastoma They occur in the younger age group, and they show little better prognosis when compared with the conventional glioblastoma. Now this IDH mutant glioblastomas, it is definition is similar to IDH wild type, but there is mutation either in the IDH1 or the IDH2 gene. And glioblastoma NOS is again same as above, but the tumors in which the IDH status has not been fully assessed. Let's have a look at the immunohistochemistry of glioblastomas. So these are GFAP S100 and OLIC2 positive tumors, which indicate its glial origin. As already discussed earlier, if it is IDH1 positive, then we call it IDH1 or IDH2 positive, we call it IDH mutant glioblastoma. If the IDH status comes negative, then we call it wild type. And the MIP1 is high. It goes to 15 to 20%. But in some cases, the proliferation index may even go up to 50%. The other markers which are also expressed are ATRX, P53, Nestin, EGFR, WT1, and cytokeratins. Now let us have a look at the epidemiology, radiology, histology, IHC, and the molecular features of the IDH wild type and the IDH mutant glioblastomas. So the IDH wild type glioblastomas, they arise de novo. So they are also called as primary glioblastomas, whereas the IDH mutant glioblastomas, they arise from a pre-existing low-grade tumor. Now wild type are most commonly found. They are 90% as compared to the IDH mutant. The median age is 62 in the wild type, and in IDH mutant, it is around 44 years. Now, if you see the radiology, IDH wild type are enhancing tumors, and they show large areas of central necrosis, whereas IDH mutant are mostly non-enhancing tumors, and they will show lesser areas of central necrosis as compared to the wild type. Similarly, it will project on histology. Extensive areas of palisading necrosis will be found in the wild type as compared to the mutant. Now the molecular study is important. The IDH wild type, they will show third promoter mutations in almost 72% of cases as compared to the IDH mutant, 26%. The P53 mutations are more common in IDH mutant than the wild type, and ATRX is rare in the wild type, whereas it is found in approximately 71% cases of the IDH mutant. Now, EGFR and P10 mutations are commonly found in the wild type and rarely found in the IDH mutant glioblastomas. Now, what is this IDH1? It is the isocitrate dehydrogenase enzyme, which is found in the Krebs cycle, which catalyzes conversion of isocitrate to alpha glutarate. IDH1 mutations are much more common as compared to the IDH2 type. Now, how do we interpret it? We interpret it on immunohistochemistry. If we get negative results on immunohistochemistry, then confirmation should be done on DNA genotyping, and before calling it IDH non-mutant or wild type. Now, what is this NOS category? If the IDH testing is not available, or it cannot be fully performed, or is inconclusive, then we label the tumor as NOS type. Now, the upcoming WHO 2021 is also coming with another category, that is NEC, that is not otherwise classified, where the histological and the molecular features are mismatched. Now, how this IDH1 helps us? Why do we do it? So it will basically help us in typing and grading of the tumor. The gliomas are positive for IDH, whereas the reactive gliosis will not exhibit IDH mutation. All the oligodendrogliomas are positive, whereas the other clear cell tumors, that is metastatic renal cell or atypical neurocytomas or clear cell ependymomas, they are negative for IDH. Then astrocytomas and oligos are positive, whereas other non-glial tumors are negative. Now in grading, how does it help? Pilocytic, which are pilocytic astrocytomas, which are WHO grade 1 tumors, are negative for IDH, whereas grade 2 and 3 gliomas exhibit IDH mutation. So we do this because it has effect on prognosis. The IDH mutant tumors, they have better survival compared to the wild type. The predictive response to radiation and or alkylating therapy, and also, as I told you, survival is better in the IDH mutant tumors. Now, ATRX, it is alpha thalassemia mental retardation syndrome, X-linked. This is a common mutation which is found in the IDH mutant astrocytic tumors, WHO grade 2, 3, and 4, and it is rarely found in the oligodendrogliomas. Now, in adult gliomas, ATRX, P53, and IDH1 or 2 co-occur, whereas in pediatric gliomas, ATRX and the histone monomers co-occur. Now, you must be seeing in our reports P53. So P53 is a tumor suppressor gene located on a short arm of chromosome 17. Loss of P53 is found in medulloblastomas, glioblastomas, and IDH mutant astrocytomas. Let me give you information about the upcoming WHO 2021. So the astrocytic tumors, according to 2021, will be IDH mutant and IDH wild type. Now the IDH1 mutant tumors which show moderate cellularity, atypia, and less mitosis, no mitosis rather, no necrosis and no microvascular proliferation, and the MIP1 index is less than 4%, and on molecular, there is absence of CDKN2A homozygous deletion. That is, then the astrocytoma will be grade 2 astrocytoma. IDH mutant grade 2 astrocytoma. Now, when the tumor shows increased cellularity, atypia, mitosis, but no necrosis and no microvascular proliferation, and the Ki67 index is between 4 to 10%, and again there is absence of CDKN2A homozygous deletion, then we'll label it as astrocytoma IDH mutant grade 3. And when the tumor is highly cellular, highly anaplastic, brisk mitotic activity noted, along with necrosis, microvascular proliferation, and homozygous deletion of CDKN2A, then we call it as astrocytoma IDH mutant grade 4. I think you must be seeing that the grades 2, 3, and 4, they are written in Arabic. Initially, we had these grade 1, 2, 3, 4 written in the Roman. So this is going to be the new WHO, as well as what has happened for the grade 2 tumors. We used to say it's a diffuse astrocytoma. For grade 3, we called anaplastic astrocytoma. And grade 4, we say glioblastoma, WHO grade 4, either IDH mutant or wild type. So we are just going to call it as astrocytoma IDH mutant grade 4. If it's IDH negative, then we will call it IDH wild type. So we have to get accustomed to this grading 2, 3, and 4 in. Yes, yes. Exactly, that will be gone and we'll be just calling it grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. Yeah, oligo will be separate. Yeah, yeah. And initially, to call it astrocytoma, we used to check 1p19q co-deletion. If it came co-deleted, then we call it oligo. But now that criteria for calling it astrocytoma, when the 1p19q co-deletion is absent, so that is not mandatory. Okay. So now these IDH wild type tumors, typical glioblastoma, classical features, that is high cellularity, marked atypia, brisk mitotic activity, microvascular proliferation, necrosis. it is going to be glioblastoma or astrocytoma, WHO grade 4. But now this is very important, okay, because most of the neurosurgeons, they say that, oh, it had been reported as a grade 2 tumor or a grade 3 tumor. It was not looking as aggressive as grade 4, but how did it recur? So let me bring this to your notice. Any astrocytoma histology, that is, it may look like grade 2 or it may look like grade 3, but if they show TERT promoter mutations, EGFR gene amplification, or gain of 7 and loss of 10 chromosome, then it will be labeled as grade 4 astrocytoma or glioblastoma. I hope you're understanding. Means the histology report on histology or HE slide, it will look like a grade 2 tumor or a grade 3 tumor. It will not show necrosis. When do we call it glioblastoma? When we see brisk mitosis, necrosis, and microvascular proliferation. But we are unable to see that on histology. Okay, then we go for them. I hope I'm trying to simplify things. Then we go ahead with the molecular, and they will show all these. If they show any of these mutations, no. Now, again, wild type can be any grade. It can be grade 2, 3, or 4. Means on histology, suppose your pathologist reports it's a grade 2. No. Wild type can be again any grade. I hope I made this point clear. On histology, it will look low grade, but the clinical course of the patient will be very aggressive. That's why they have imposed upon doing these molecular studies, even for the low grade tumors. Let's have a look at case number 2. A 70-year-old lady presented with lower limb weakness and pain, incontinence of urine, and features of lumbar radiculopathy. She also had forgetfulness. Now, MRI revealed an irregular, heterogeneous, hyperintense lobulated mass in the cavum septum pellucidum, frontal horn, and body of the right lateral ventricle, closely abutting the body of the corpus callosum. The tumor measured 3.6 into 4.5 into 4.3 centimeters. On FLAIR, T1, and post-contrast, a heterogeneous enhancing mass was noted. So on radiology, the radiologist said it could be a high-grade glial tumor. We can have a look at the intraventricular tumors. Okay, so tell me. No, it was mainly intraventricular. So what comes to your mind? Okay, yes. So the differential diagnosis which come to our mind are high-grade glial tumor, could be glioblastoma, anaplastic ependymoma, anaplastic oligodendroglioma. Again, intraventricular meningioma or typical neurocytoma, METs, and even SEGA are they are found in the younger age group, but sometimes, in elderlies, it is an incidental finding when they go for the scans. So this is what we received in our lab. So on intraoperative cytology, a mixed tumor was noted, that is fascicles of spindle cells with interspersed anaplastic glial cells. You can see this is this is a single astrocytic cell. So you can see the size and even the large nucleolus in this. On histopathology, it was a biphasic tumor showing predominantly sarcomatous component and anaplastic glial component interspersed. So we did immunohistochemistry in this case. So what was expressed in the tumor cells was GFAP and S100 was found positive in the glial cells, whereas the sarcomatous cells were negative for GFAP and S100. We did a special stain on this. The reticulin was positive in the sarcomatous component. The P53 mutation means P53 overexpression was seen in glial as well as the sarcomatous component. Vimentin was positive and the MIB1 is high. It's 10 to 12%. So what do you think? Yes, correct. Yeah. Now I'll tell you how we arrived to the diagnosis. So let me tell you the negative markers. EMA was negative, so meningioma was ruled out. SMA was not expressed. Rhabdoid tumor was ruled out. SOX10 was negative. Schwannoma was ruled out. And again, synaptophysin and chromogranin were not expressed. So SEGA or any ganglionic or any neuroendocrine tumor was ruled out. And again, we did the IDH status because we had the glial cells in that. So it was IDH negative. That means what it is? Yes, wild type, yes. So we came to the diagnosis of gliosarcoma WHO grade 4. Let's have a look at the case, third case. A 50-year-old man presented with headache and delirium. MRI revealed a heterogeneous extraaxial dural-based mass with skull bone erosion and extension into the scalp. What do you think it is? Yes. 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 And most common. First bring always the most common DDs to your mind, and then you should have a list of rest of the things. Pardon? Could be. Now we are just discussing DDs. Okay, yeah. So what comes to our mind is aggressive meningioma, that is anaplastic meningioma, METS, lymphoma, or a high-grade glial tumor. So on intraoperative cytology, again, the tumor was a high-grade spindle cell tumor with increased vascularity. So we suggested maybe a typical or anaplastic meningioma, solitary fibrous tumor oblique, hemangiopericytoma, and Ewing's sarcoma. So on histology, this was a structure. It was a patternless compact tumor. You can see increased vascularity and branching of the blood vessels. Okay, that is called as staghorn appearance of the blood vessels. Necrosis was present and it was showing brisk mitotic activity as well. So we proceeded with immunohistochemistry. These cells were GFAP negative, that is a glial tumor was ruled out. EMA was negative, meningioma ruled out. CD34 was lost in the neoplastic cells. CD99 and FLI1 was negative, that is Ewing sarcoma was ruled out. And cytokeratin negative, metastatic carcinoma ruled out. And what came positive was STAT6. Now this STAT6 nuclear positivity is because of genomic inversion at 12q13 locus, causing fusion of these two genes, NAB2 and STAT6. So can anybody tell me what is the diagnosis? Huh? Yes. So an impression of final diagnosis of solitary fibrous tumor, hemangiopericytoma, WHO grade 4 was made. Now let's see what is this SFT phenotype and HPC phenotype. Now SFT is histologically grade 1 tumor. They behave in a benign fashion and the treatment of choice remains gross total resection. While this hemangiopericytoma, HPC phenotype, these are histologically grade 2 or 3 and they show high recurrence rate and they may even have intra or extracranial metastasis, and adjuvant radiotherapy is beneficial in HPC phenotype. Let us have, since meningioma is the most commonly occurring tumor and DD for this. So WHO grade 1 meningiomas are benign tumors and they are most commonly occurring and they have very low risk of recurrence, that is 7 to 25%, and the MIB1 in these tumors is less than 4%. Now, WHO grade 2 meningiomas, the incidence is around 6%, and the atypical meningiomas will show increased likelihood of recurrence, that is 29 to 52%. And the MIB1 here is more than 4%. Whereas the grade 3 meningioma, these are rarely found. They have malignant potential. They may even metastasize, and the recurrence is around 50 to 94%. And the MIB1 is very high in the anaplastic, that is WHO grade 3 meningiomas. It is more than 20%. So this is how I conclude my lecture. I would be happy to answer your questions.